Welcome to Payback with Silas. Every day, a new story, lies, betrayal, payback. Let's begin.
They said I was too old to matter. Too set in my ways. Too old school. That's the phrase Nathan used when he fired me. Old school. Like I was a dusty typewriter in a digital office. But here's what people like Nathan never understand. The old school? We built the goddamn building you're standing in. My name's Grant Holloway, 48 years old. For the last 23 years, I worked at Vanguard Aerotech, a mid-sized aviation firm out of Seattle. I wasn't just a manager. I was the guy they called when everything fell apart. Contracts slipping? I fixed it. Key clients wavering? I sat across from them, looked them in the eye, and got the signature. I didn't need flashy presentations or team-building games. I needed 5 minutes and a black coffee. That was my style. That was how I played. And it worked. Until Nathan Sloan walked in. 31. MBA from somewhere with a chandelier in the lobby. Expensive suits, expensive words, cheap experience. He'd been in the building for 2 weeks before he summoned me to his office. I knew what was coming. His office was all glass, all sunlight, no substance. I stepped in, and he didn't even look up from his laptop when he said, "Grant, have a seat." I stayed standing. Didn't feel like making this easier for him. "Nathan, if this is going where I think it is, you can just say it." That made him pause. He finally looked up. Clean shave, perfect teeth, eyes that didn't know what they were doing. "You're a valuable guy, Grant. No one's questioning that. But here it comes. We're moving in a new direction. We need leadership that reflects the modern approach. Fresh ideas. You've been doing things the same way for decades." I let him finish his carefully rehearsed speech. And when he finally said it, "You're part of the old school. And it's time we make room for the new." I just nodded. No fight. No begging. I shook his hand. "Good luck, Nathan. I hope you know what you're doing." I walked out calm. No slammed doors. No angry emails. Just silence. But I knew something he didn't. There's one thing you can't buy with your degree or your trendy strategies. You can't buy trust. You can't buy relationships built over decades. You can't buy knowing the pulse of the people who make your company money. He just traded that away. And I was about to find out just how valuable the old school still was. I thought I'd feel worse. 23 years, gone with a handshake. You'd think I'd be angry. Bitter. Maybe I should have been. But the truth is, I felt clear. Like I'd been holding my breath for a long time, and suddenly, I could breathe again. I took a few days. Cleaned out the garage. Had breakfast at the same diner I used to rush past every morning. Bennett's on 5th. They make the kind of black coffee that punches you in the chest and doesn't apologize. I like that about them. It was on a Tuesday morning, sitting in that diner, that my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Normally, I'd let it ring. But something told me to pick up. "Grant Holloway," I answered out of habit. There was a brief pause, then a voice I hadn't heard in years. "Grant? It's Eli Mercer." Eli used to work at Stratus Dynamics, one of our fiercest competitors. We'd gone head-to-head in the same markets for years, but there was always mutual respect. He was sharp. Tactical. Not like Nathan. "I heard what happened," Eli said. His voice was low, careful. "You're out at Vanguard?" I sipped my coffee. "News travels fast." "Yeah, especially bad news. Listen, I'm gonna cut straight to it. We've been trying to crack a few accounts you used to handle. Can't get in. They trust you, not us." I knew exactly which accounts he meant. High-value aerospace clients. Long-term contracts. The kind that aren't won with a brochure. They're earned over years of late-night calls and showing up when no one else does. "What are you asking me, Eli?" There was another pause. I could practically hear him weighing his words. "Come in as a consultant. We need your insight. Your connections. We'll pay you well. No politics. No Nathan Sloan types. Just you doing what you do best. I leaned back in the booth, watching the steam rise off my coffee. Was I about to work for the competition? A younger me would have said no. Out of loyalty. Out of pride. But loyalty only works when it's mutual. And Vanguard had made it crystal clear. I was expendable. I said, "I'll think about it." Eli chuckled softly. "You already have." He was right. I'd made my decision the second Nathan shook my hand and dismissed everything I'd built. I finished my coffee, left a tip for Sarah, the waitress who'd worked at Bennett's longer than I'd been alive, and stepped out into the cold Seattle air. The old Grant would have gone home to stew over it. But the new Grant? The one they pushed out the door? I was ready to go to work. And this time, I was working for me. When I walked into Stratus Dynamics' downtown office a few days later, I didn't come in looking for revenge. I came in to do what I always did: work. Solve problems. Build trust. That's what I told myself, anyway. But let's be honest. There was a part of me, a sharp, quiet part, that wanted them to feel it. To feel the weight of what they'd thrown away. Eli met me in the lobby. Same easy grin, same sharp eyes. "Glad you came, Grant. Let's see if we can actually help each other," I said. He walked me through their situation. They had great engineers, solid products, competitive pricing, but they couldn't close the right deals. They couldn't get past the front doors of the companies I used to manage at Vanguard. Because here's the truth about business that the Nathans of the world don't get: it's not about price sheets and PowerPoints. It's about people trusting you to pick up when they call at 2 a.m. I'd spent decades earning that trust. Vanguard thought they owned it. They didn't. I did. Over the next few weeks, I started making calls. Not pushy, not desperate, just conversations. Old contacts. Friends. Clients who used to rely on me to steer them straight. They all said the same thing. "Vanguard feels different now. Like something's missing." Yeah. It was. I didn't badmouth Vanguard. I didn't need to. I just listened. I asked what they needed. And then, carefully, I built offers through Stratus that actually solved their problems, not just what looked good on a spreadsheet. Clients started moving. Quietly at first. Then faster. 1, 2, 5. Eli called me one morning, half laughing, half shocked. "Grant, Vanguard's starting to notice. They're panicking. Their head of sales just quit last night." I didn't smile. I didn't need to. That wasn't the point. I was doing good work. That's what mattered. But somewhere deep down? Yeah. It felt pretty damn satisfying. A week later, I ran into someone I hadn't expected. Clara Jensen. She used to be my right hand at Vanguard. Sharp, loyal, absolutely brilliant. We crossed paths at a networking event downtown. She spotted me from across the room and made a straight line over. "Grant, what the hell are you doing?" she asked, half whispering, half accusing. "Building something better," I said calmly. "You know they're furious, right? Nathan's losing his mind. The board's all over him. They're blaming him for letting you walk." I met her gaze steady. "He didn't let me walk. He pushed me out." She hesitated, biting her lip. "You're bleeding them dry." I shrugged. "I'm just doing what I've always done. Solving problems." She looked around, lowered her voice. "Off the record? They made a huge mistake." "I know." Before she left, she said something that stuck with me. "Be careful, Grant. People like Nathan, they don't go down quietly." Maybe. But people like me? We don't go down at all. They didn't call me directly. Of course they didn't. People like Nathan don't like to get their hands dirty. But the message still came. It started with quiet pressure. Former colleagues suddenly stopped answering my calls. Vendors I'd worked with for years began hesitating. I even got a notice from a supplier I knew personally. They were being encouraged to reconsider working with me. Encouraged. Right. Vanguard was leaning on everyone they could, trying to freeze me out. Trying to scare people into staying away from me. It was a weak play. Desperate. But it told me something important. I was hitting them exactly where it hurt. Then came the lawyers. One afternoon, I found a thick envelope waiting on my doorstep. Cease and desist. Claims of misappropriation of relationships. Whatever that means. Nathan was trying to pin me for client poaching. He was grasping at straws. But here's the thing. I wasn't stealing anyone. I wasn't dragging anyone out the door. The clients came to me. Because they trusted me. Because I listened. Because I delivered. Nathan didn't get that. He thought people were assets you could list on a spreadsheet. He thought loyalty came with a signature. I passed the letter to my attorney, Marcus Langley, who laughed halfway through reading it. This won't hold, Marcus said, flipping pages like they were a cheap magazine. You didn't sign a non-compete, and you haven't breached a single agreement. Still, I said, they're going to push. Oh yeah, he smirked. Because they're losing. And losers push harder when they're cornered. The next week, Vanguard went public. Not in a stock market way, in a smear campaign way. They started quietly leaking things to the industry press. That I was unstable. That I'd been a difficult employee. That I was bitter, angry, out to destroy the company. I read one of the articles over coffee and couldn't help but chuckle. If this was their big move, I was already winning. Eli called me the same day. Grant, they're trying to scare the smaller clients. Spreading rumors you're being sued personally. Let them, I said. If the only tool they've got is fear, that means they've already run out of options. Because you can't scare people into loyalty. You can't threaten people into trust. And the more Vanguard screamed, the calmer I stayed. That's when something unexpected happened. Clara called me. She sounded different this time, less careful, more serious. Grant, you need to know something. They're losing more than you think. Corporate's starting to question Nathan. They're holding him responsible for the losses. There's talk about bringing someone in over him. I let that sink in. How long do you think he's got? I asked. Not long. He's desperate. He's going to come for you harder. Let him try. Grant, she said quietly, this isn't just business to him anymore. He's made it personal. I looked out the window, watching the rain streak down the glass. That's his first mistake. I wasn't playing his game. I never was. I was just doing what I'd always done. I showed up. I worked hard. I kept my word. And when people like Nathan burn the bridges behind them, the old school guys like me? We already know the back roads. It was a Thursday when I realized Nathan had finally snapped. Up until then, it had all been corporate games, pressure, rumors, legal threats. But now, he'd crossed the line. I got a call from Mason Ridgway, one of my oldest clients, a guy I'd worked with back when contracts were still done over handshakes. His voice was tight, cold. Grant, did you really tell people we're cutting corners on safety? I nearly dropped my coffee. What? Of course not. Where's this coming from? Nathan's people called me. Told me you've been trashing US. Said you're spreading stories that were not compliant. My jaw clenched so tight I could hear my pulse in my ears. Nathan's lying to you, Mason. I would never say that. You know me. Silence on the other end. Then finally. I know. I just needed to hear you say it. But he's coming for you, Grant. He's hitting below the belt now. That's when I knew Nathan wasn't just trying to slow me down anymore. He wanted to destroy me. I called Marcus. He's lying directly to my clients now. He's defaming me. We can hit him back, Grant. Hard. I can file so fast his head'll spin. But I didn't say anything. Because I wasn't interested in a lawsuit. I didn't want a courtroom victory. I wanted him to watch what happens when you try to bury someone who knows how to survive. So I doubled down. I called the clients who were still hesitating, the ones who had bought into Nathan's stories, and I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I told them the truth. Here's the deal. I'm not going to beg for your business. I'm not going to fight dirty like Vanguard. I'm going to offer you exactly what you asked for, honest, solid work with real follow-through. You can go with them if you want. No hard feelings. One by one, they started coming over. Quietly. Decisively. Because when trust is real, you don't have to sell it. You just have to stand behind it. Within 2 months, Stratus Dynamics captured a quarter of Vanguard's key accounts. Nathan's numbers tanked. Their quarterly reports were brutal. The board came down on him like a storm. And then I got the message I didn't know I was waiting for. It was Clara again. But this time, she was smiling through the phone. I could hear it. Nathan's out. Board forced him to resign this morning. They said the losses were unrecoverable. His entire strategy blew up in his face. I didn't celebrate. I didn't need to. His mistake wasn't firing me. His mistake was thinking I wouldn't know how to build something better. Guess they finally figured out the cost of losing the old school, huh? I said. You're not old school, Clara said softly. You're just the real thing. Before she hung up, she added. They asked me to step up. To try and clean up the mess. You'll do great, Clara. She hesitated. They wanted me to ask if you'd come back. As a consultant. Help stabilize things. They're offering a lot. I didn't even blink. Tell them thanks, but I've already got everything I need. I meant it. I wasn't looking backward anymore. Because while Nathan was busy chasing his next shiny title, I was already building something real. And I wasn't finished yet. I didn't take the offer. Not because of pride. Not because I wanted to prove a point. I didn't go back because I finally realized I'd outgrown that place a long time ago. When you spend decades inside someone else's walls, you start to believe you belong to the building. That your worth is tied to their logo, their letterhead, their approval. But the truth is, I was never the building. I was the foundation. After Nathan was gone, Vanguard scrambled to repair what they'd lost. They clawed back a few small contracts. They polished their image. But the core was cracked. The trust was gone. I kept working with Stratus for another 6 months. Helped them grow. Helped them win. But I knew, even then, that I wasn't meant to stay under anyone's roof anymore. So I built my own. Holloway Strategic. Simple. Direct. Just like me. No middle management games. No trendy jargon. No 15 slide decks full of nothing. Just straight, honest work. I didn't need to dominate the industry. I didn't need to be the biggest name on the block. I just wanted to build something with my name on it, something that would last. And it did. Clients came. Word spread. Not because I chased them, but because people talk. They remember who showed up. They remember who kept their promises. One afternoon, about a year later, I was sitting in my own corner office, nothing fancy, just a good view and quiet, when I got a package in the mail. No sender listed. Just a small, unmarked envelope. Inside was a business card. Nathan Sloan. Independent consultant. Tucked behind it was a note. Just 5 words. Careful. The game turns fast. I read it once. Smiled. Tossed it in the trash. Because here's what Nathan never understood. I wasn't playing a game. I was building a life. And in my life, the only rules are the ones I set. I still go to Bennett's on 5th every Thursday morning. Same black coffee. Same booth. Sarah still brings it without asking. And sometimes, when I'm sitting there, quietly watching the steam rise, listening to the buzz of the morning crowd, I think back to that moment in Nathan's glass office. When he called me old school. I wear it like armor now. Because the old school? We don't fade. We don't fold. We don't quit. We build. We endure. We win, whether anyone's watching or not. And most of all, we never forget who we are.